3, 2, 1.
Hey there, you beautiful badass.
2, 1.
Welcome to the Carrie Croft Show. I'm your host, Carrie Croft, delivering you stories that get you pumped up and feeling like the unstoppable savage that you are. So grab your coffee, put on your game face, and let's do this thing, baby. Start your journey to parenthood with reproductive gynecology and infertility in Ohio. RGI offers IVF, surrogacy, genetic testing, and more, accepting all insurances and offering flexible payment plans. Your dream of parenthood begins with RGI's immediate, affordable care. Book now at rgiohio.com. You're pull her in. Oh, I love you. I do. I really do. I mean, here's the problem. It'd be one thing if the interview was like a 6 and I was like, damn it, if only I had if I had another chance to do it over again. What would you rate the interview? The chemistry,
The last time?
the topics, all of it. Rate it.
I mean, 9.7.
What could I have done to make it a 10?
That's a good question. You know, this is your world. I don't know.
I thought it was like a 12.
Let's make it a 10 this time.
I thought it was like a 12.
Oh, that's right. You
So
did rate
let's
it a 12.
So let's start by, I do want to just fall on my sword.
Yeah.
And just the jackassery that I pulled of getting one of the busiest plastic surgeons in Columbus lassoed in.
It's all good.
It was a Herculean effort. He comes in. We have an amazing chat.
We did.
I don't want to go into details, but the audio disappeared.
Yeah.
So
That's okay.
I know it's okay,
Yeah.
but here's the lesson for everyone out there. No one really knows what they're doing half the time. And you just have to take a minute, punch yourself in the face, and then figure out the lesson and move on.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, so if somebody's having a bad day out there thinking they're just a jackass, join the club.
I can't have a bad day. That's the problem with what I do.
Well, you have lopsided titties. Speaking of what you do, so you just came from a what?
This morning I had a breast augmentation and a gynecomastia operation, which is the equivalent of male breasts.
So that's interesting. So what is your percentage of men to women that come in for stuff?
It's about 80-20, about 20% men. That's growing. It's one of the faster growing segments, but definitely 8 out of 10 at this point are still women.
And most of the time it's what? Man boobs? Is it?
Oh, for men?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gynecomastia is number one, liposuction, and then you get into some of the facial rhinoplasties and things like that.
Now, have you had anything done?
No, I haven't.
Would you ever?
Surgically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose if there was something that bothered me enough.
And
sure.
we do need to discuss the beard.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Because I feel like the beard is even more coiffed right now than I think it's ever been. Did you brush the beard down before you got here?
I don't give the beard much attention. It's just a little snip here and there.
You just woke up like that?
It's kind of like bonsai, you know? You just sort of shape it as it grows.
Okay, so you have the doctor meets the cabin mystery man edge going on. Okay, so here's what I like about your brand and Donaldson in general, and I have always noticed, you have a very conservative sort of, we're going to meet you where you are and kind of maybe make something a little bit better. We're not going to go from 0 to 100. You're
Right.
not going to come to me with your Kim Kardashian,
It's true.
pictures, and I'm going to make false expectations. You ain't going to look like Kim K.
Right.
But you are going to look like a souped up version of you.
Yeah, I think that's the point. I mean, people change over time, right? And we all have an idea of what we want to see and have seen in the mirror before. And so, particularly living in the Midwest, I think our patients are wonderful and for the most part have very realistic expectations. And so if they don't, I think it's my job to kind of set forth realistic expectations. But most people come in, something's changed because of pregnancy or because they're 20 years older and they just don't like a certain area. And we make it better. And in today's technology and with the training we've had, those things for the most part are easy to accomplish, easier than most people think. And it can be accomplished with minimal downtime and not a lot of discomfort. And we move forward. And the vast majority of patients, they get those areas fixed and they're thrilled and life moves on. And they're better able to take care of their families or in their workplace or in their love life. And it's problem solved. So it's pretty rewarding.
We'll get to the love life.
Yeah.
I just want to get through all the other stuff so I can just
Sure.
say dirty
I know
words.
that's your thing,
We're just ramping into it.
That's just, it always comes back around to that. It's fine.
Okay, so another thing I love, aside from the conservative approach, that you're very realistic and transparent about what's going to happen when you go under the knife.
Yeah.
So you guys have also taken this approach of functional medicine with the plastic surgery.
Right.
So it's not just about the plastic surgery anymore. It's about wellness.
Yes.
And these two are living together within your practice. And you've invested a ton of time and energy, and you have Dr. Weston now, who I met, and she's lovely.
Great. Yeah. She is.
So it makes so much sense to me, because if you have a woman or a man that's not feeling the greatest and kind of thinking maybe that's the solution is to automatically go toward cutting, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, clearly. But what if there's some things in between there, and you guys are solving for that? And I think it's a testament to the fact that you care about the whole person.
Thank you.
So talk a little bit about the functional side.
Yeah, so I think patients, for the most part, some, as I described earlier, come in with an area that bothers them, and we know we can fix it, make it a lot better. Other patients come in and just say, I don't feel great in general, and I think it might be a body part I want to have fixed. And you look at the situation and you think, gosh, there's probably more at play here. It could be a combination of hormones and nutrition and sleep patterns and exercise levels, and who knows, the status of their thyroid or the supplements they're taking. And when you combine all of those things, you realize there's potentially a bigger picture at play. And yes, that body part may be easily fixable, but that's not really going to solve the root of the issues that the patient's describing. And so I think for a while we used to send those patients out and maybe talk to your primary care physician or talk to your counselor, who knows. But they were coming back and saying, I really haven't figured it out, haven't gotten the answers I've wanted. And when we realized that functional medicine could answer a lot of those questions and make patients feel better, we brought it in. And it took a while, because I wanted someone who was going to represent the same quality there that we have already established in plastic surgery. But when we found Dr. Weston, who's double board certified in internal medicine, as well as sports medicine, and she'd had lots of experience with patients over more than a decade, and in addition had gotten her functional medicine training, it was just a great fit, kind of worked out right away. And we have the same patient population, patients who care about the way they appear, also care about being optimized from a wellness standpoint, from a health standpoint.
And like it or not, I feel like traditional medicine, it's reactive, right? So it's like you finally, I mean, what are your thoughts on that too? Because it does, no shade, right? And that's what it does and what it's been doing.
Yeah.
But I think as people become more educated, technology becomes more savvy, we now have sort of an ability to see the dashboard of what the hell's going on inside. We want more. We want more knowledge. We want to know what our biological age is and all these things.
Yeah.
Traditional medicine isn't on track with that, or not keeping up right now.
Yeah, traditional medicine treats problems once they've occurred. And so we have two sets of patients that come to see us. One is a set of patients who are already pretty well, and they're eating well, and they're exercising, and they're taking care of their bodies. They just want to be even better and optimized. And they know that there's a whole scientific discipline out there regarding longevity and performance, and there are other things they could be doing to kind of maximize their time on Earth, literally, in terms of their health and their health span. Versus their lifespan, which is the difference being how healthy are you and for how long, not just how long you live. The second type of patient comes in and they have a problem, and they could go see traditional medicine, and maybe they have, but instead of treating the problem, it goes back. Functional medicine goes back further in time and says, well, what caused that to begin with? So if you have a cold, for instance, your primary care physician, they're going to prescribe an antibiotic, or they're going to treat the symptoms. Functional medicine doctor would say, well, why'd you get that cold? Are you run down? Have you not slept enough? What's your nutritional status? What are your hormone levels? Are there other reasons that this kind of crept up? That's a really simplistic problem, but you can imagine if you're talking about heart disease or cancer or mental illness, that there's probably more at play that's happened over decades, most likely. Yeah,
because if you're tired, if you have low sex drive, if you're feeling bloated, if you have all these kind of weird things where you feel like you're dragging, it might be a sign to go inward and do some functional medicine, as opposed to, I know that our reflex is built towards give me the prescription or fix it quickly. But the reality is that there's so much knowledge out there. Knowledge is power. And so maybe take a step back and do the functional side of things and just get to know, get to know yourself in a different way. That's what I'm so excited for. And I'm still waiting for my my Dutch test results. I did all of that. And
That's great.
I think it should be back in like 2 weeks. And my
Yeah.
follow-up is like mid-August. So I sit down with Dr. Weston and she's going to give me, like I was telling Corbin, I hope that they see my shit and they're like, you're superhuman.
Yeah.
You need to fix nothing.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's scary though too. You're like, wait, there's a vulnerability factor because you think you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're like, well, wait, I have low estrogen or I need to, but again, I like the idea of knowledge and I want to know what I can know. So here's what I would tell someone who maybe hears Donaldson and has this association with, oh, I'm afraid because it's too extreme.
Yeah.
Here's been my experience. So even before the functional side, even before I became aware of that, you and I did a consultation on my National Geographic tatas, which I still haven't had the, I can't do anything with yet. I don't know if I ever will. But anyway,
Sure.
it's not about me.
It's not for everyone.
But my experience has been also the med spa. I've done incredible facials and everyone has been super knowledgeable. So I would think about Donaldson less like, oh, it has to be this all or nothing thing. And it can stair step you. So, okay, I can go figure out more about who I am on the inside. And then I can dabble in some facials and some laser and some like little things. And then let's assess because the power of just those things might completely change what you think you need to actually do from a plastic surgery perspective. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I think for most patients who come through our office, they want to look and feel better. And so chances are we have something that's either going to make them look better or feel better or both. And it can be as simple as using medical grade skincare or having a short laser procedure to all the way through plastic surgery, or maybe it's checking your hormones and looking into your gut health. I mean, each of those steps will apply to someone who walks through our doors, whether they even know that's what they're looking for or not. So we can help figure it out.
Right. And the hormone thing is huge because if you're feeling lethargic and you're not feeling yourself and you're low energy, that's like a number one indicator that you got to figure something out. And getting a boob job that may not be that. You might be just looking for something to help yourself feel better.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think that's part of our job is to tease out, gosh, okay, maybe someone's hormones aren't optimized, but that might be okay. Maybe they really just actually have super small or saggy breasts after breastfeeding, in which case, let's just fix that up. That's going to immediately make them feel better about that area. And then if they want to go into hormones later, that's fine. So it can work both ways. It can be
You're talking to me, aren't
before
you?
or after.
You're talking to me. You're
No,
saying
no,
saggy
this is-
breasts, you need a boob job.
I think come back
Subliminal
in.
subliminal messages. I hear you loud and
This
clear.
is not a consultation.
I hear you loud and clear.
This is my disclaimer. Come into the office and we'll talk
This
all
is,
about
I
it.
repeat, this is not a consultation. Consult your physician. Oh, wait. Okay, so let's go into the stigma, though, because I want to debunk the stigma as well.
Yeah.
Living in the Midwest is a little different than living in Beverly Hills and
sure.
New York City
Yeah.
and all the things. But we deserve, everyone here deserves to look and feel their best, regardless of, what plot of land you live on in the United States or elsewhere. So you had mentioned something in your intake form about how feminism, self-confidence, positive body image can coexist with plastic surgery, and I love that. Let's talk a little bit more about that because I do think there's a bit of judgment, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she got a boob job. Oh, she got a tummy tuck. It makes you maybe vain and, oh, I can't believe she would go under and do that. There's all kinds of stuff out there that people want to judge. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think the stigma is a lot less now than it was even 20 years ago. I think the current generation, even of people who are just becoming adults, are talking about more and more comfortably. So I think that's been a change and a mind shift. I also think that 20 years ago, certainly 50 years ago, many women anyway were doing what they thought maybe a male perspective wanted, and I don't see that really almost ever anymore. It has to do with the patient's own perspective and what they want to see in the mirror. So I think that's a really positive change, and is the definition of feminism, doing whatever you want as a woman. And so I think those are very positive. And I think also the stigma, in terms of being vain or doing something for yourself, we all do things for ourselves every day. The way we dress, the way we do our hair, the way we present ourselves to the world. And so I think some people are blessed with total comfort with the bodies the way they are, and that's fine. And I think other people really would like to change something they know that technology's come a long way and the techniques have come a long way and it's a safe thing to do and they can easily get through it and they can afford it. And so it's a fit. I mean, we're not looking to operate on everyone. That'd be completely inappropriate. But for the people who want that, desire that, we have services to offer.
So speaking of what you just said around, the point of view of the other person, are we there with vaginal rejuvenation? I think personally that when women hear vaginal rejuvenation, you automatically go to pleasing your partner, making your vagina tighter so that your partner is more satisfied. Okay. And I'm not saying that isn't one prong, but that's almost like, I guess like an example I would think of is like, how when you give massages to each other, like, oh, can you give me a 5-minute massage? You're like, God, I don't want to, but I'll give you one. Okay, because I know I'm going to get that. If you're not going to have an orgasm and sex isn't pleasing you, you don't really want to do it. It's more like I have to give you a back rub. So vaginal rejuvenation helps the woman to have a better sex life, right? It's a bigger picture than just pleasing the partner.
Yeah, it depends what you're talking about. So there are a lot of different types of people use the word or the term vaginal rejuvenation for a lot of different things. So true vaginal rejuvenation is usually an OB-GYN procedure where you're dealing with the internal anatomy of that area. I think what you're talking about is laser therapy, DIVA specifically, labiaplasty even potentially, which are procedures that we offer. I knew this was coming. This is
Of course.
you asked Dr. Shepard, you asked Dr. Jane.
Yeah.
Like you love this
I
territory.
love vaginas. The vaginas make the world go round. Do they? Yes, they do. It just is what it is.
Yeah. No. So to your question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's specifically with the laser therapy, it helps with female sensation, which is what you're talking about, female orgasm. It helps with lubrication. It helps with a slight tightening. It helps with minor urinary incontinence for women who can't bounce on the trampoline with their kids or do a jumping jack for fear that they're going to squirt a little urine. Then the laser can help. So for all those reasons, and Courtney in our office, who has a deep background in urogynecology, is the person who evaluates our patients and performs those treatments, and she does an amazing job, and she's wonderful. So
that's a big one. The peeing, the jumping and doing jumping jacks and peeing.
Yeah.
So laser can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, will it totally help, or will it be like 10%, 20%?
It depends the severity. Sometimes a patient needs like a full bladder sling type of operation, but there's a whole group of patients who are between needing surgery and dealing with it on their own, for whom laser therapy is a great fit.
Okay.
Takes a few minutes, no recovery.
Okay. Well, I think, moving on to a couple other things you said in your intake form, one of which I loved about the stigma of plastic surgeons, which you have proven this is not true. They are not pricks and they are not cheese balls.
Great.
That being said, there's one in every crowd. But why the stigma? Just like is it a heart surgeon where they'll say like, they think they have a God complex, or a brain surgeon or something? Like there's always a stigma.
Yeah.
Why is it the prick and the cheese ball? Because it's super like aesthetics and people just associate it with that?
Yeah, maybe a good question. I don't know. You see those random billboards and television ads where you're like, that person doesn't seem trustworthy, or there's someone out there for everybody, right? But I think a lot of plastic surgeons are kind of in their own little worlds. We're still the only medical subspecialty for whom over 50% are in solo private practice and not affiliated with a huge group or bought out by a hospital or university system. And so I think some people get in their own little worlds and present this image that is not exactly
just stay off the billboards,
best.
basically, is what you're saying.
We're not on.
Or do what you.
Never say never, but I think there's an authentic way to do that, and there's a cheesy way.
One of my favorite answers that we didn't talk about last time, I said, how would other people describe you?
Yeah.
And you said, it depends which people. But I actually love that answer.
True.
Because do you really get wrapped up in like how you're perceived and what people think? Or have you always been sort of a self-confident guy, even when you were younger? Or are you just like, look, it is what it is, and people can think what they want to think? I love that answer.
I think more of that comes probably with maturity, right, and age. I think most of us, me included, are probably a little more subject to peer pressure when they're younger and trying to figure it out. But yeah, I think the more you get into life and recognize that there are people for whom those relationships are going to resonate, your personality is going to resonate, and those for whom it won't, and that's okay. It's a big world. So yeah, I think everyone's perspective is unique when it comes to each
But I mean,
person they encounter.
But that's it sounds simple.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people could take a page out of that book where it's like, yeah, how would people describe you? It depends on which people.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying to fit yourself into some mold or box or dilute yourself to be liked, just take that.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's also
that's a great approach.
well, and I think in social media and particularly when the business is, or the brand anyway, of Donaldson Health is me, there's a temptation to kind of put out some canned image. And I think maybe Hollywood celebrities fall into that a little bit, like who is the actual person versus who's the person who's presented. And so I've always fought that and just tried to be myself and authentic, because then other patients who come will resonate and it'll be the same way. We've been blessed with really great patients, and even the website originally I wrote word for word myself, and the idea was it's a two-way street. You know, I mean, patients can find me, but at the same time I'm sort of filtering patients for whom that makes sense or resonates, and those for whom it doesn't. And it's great because there are other places those people can go if they don't like what we're doing.
Yeah. So going back to when you first were coming up and you were in residency and you were working, when you say 100+ hours a week, I got my little calculator out.
It's a lot.
Like that's 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right. And I get that. It's no secret that when you're doing this kind of work, you have to be well trained and you go through all kinds. My sister is an OB, and I watched what happened in like her doing the matching process and how exciting that was. But was there ever another doctor you wanted to be? Like, were you like, I would love to be a brain surgeon. I would love to be like, did you have your heart set on anything else, or was this just kind of it?
It was a bit of a winding path. I mean, the first step was deciding whether to be a medical physician or a surgeon, and it was clear that I wanted to be a surgeon. And then I really did. I liked cardiothoracic surgery. I had a few mentors who were heart surgeons. And I really liked those procedures and those operations. During surgical residency, I was approached to actually switch and become a neurosurgeon and go into brain and spine surgery. But ultimately, I enjoyed the work in plastic surgery the most. The mentors with whom I connected the most were plastic surgeons, and so I went that direction, and it's been wonderful. I can't imagine doing anything else.
So, speaking of Dr. Jane, you mentioned him earlier. So he's great, and he was bringing up. We were talking about his journey, and he was like, I thought maybe I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, and I went in there and I couldn't handle the smell of bone. It made me sick. And then I thought maybe I wanted to be an OB, and I saw a baby coming out of a vagina, and I almost passed out, and I knew that wasn't it. Like, do you have any memories from residency where you had your rotations and you were like, nope, not that? Or like any like trauma moments of like, I'll never forget that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest telltale sign was actually in medical school, and I was just engaged to my wife at that point, and I would have a family practice rotation where I'd be away for 8 hours, and I'd come back just completely physically and mentally exhausted and have to go right to bed. And I would contrast that with a surgical overnight where I'd spent 36 hours operating and came home just completely jazzed and ready to go out and full of energy. So I think, ideally, you choose something that gives you energy instead of saps your energy. I mean, I can tell with what you do, it gives you energy.
Well, until I fuck it up.
Wonderful.
And then I want to jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
And then I was even telling him,
good.
I go, at least my recovery time's quick. I think I've got that going for me, right?
Fortunately, it worked out.
Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit. Speaking of your wife, so what is she like? Because getting to know you a little bit more, I would love 10 minutes with her just to observe like the different.
Yeah.
Like, what is she like? And then did she always just know? Because you're signing up for something, great things too. But when you marry you and you have all these commitments, you have 100, she's going to have her own independence and be able to like know what she's in for.
Yeah.
So what has that been like? And how would you describe her?
I mean, she's wonderful. She's the mother of our 2 great kids. She's patient. She's kind. She's smart as hell. She's very athletic. So we get to do a lot of fun things together. And at this point, we've been at it for, 24 years. So,
And now you're kind of just reaping the different benefits, right? I mean, it's like you're still working hard, but now you get to choose. You get to kind of decide maybe your schedule a little bit more and take your breaks when you need to. How old are your kids?
Well, my first is going to college this fall, so we'll have one left for 2 years, and then we'll see. Yeah, it's going fast.
What the hell? What will you do in your empty nester?
We'll have to figure it out.
I'm sure you guys have some adventures already on the horizon.
Some things, yeah.
Speaking of adventures, okay, so this was the part that I found hilarious in your intake form. I'm going to read it verbatim. So I ask you, some things about you, and let's get to know you to get you relatable to the masses.
Sure.
And so you say, hella skiing in Alaska, African safari, sailing and scuba diving in the BVIs, cycling southern France. I'm doing it again with my voice.
Yeah.
Hiking Peru
It's like
and
this
Kauai.
British affect. Go
Lake
ahead.
cabin ownership, English major at Yale, played a year of college football, nonfiction reading and writing. Now, the only gap here is there's no musical inclination.
Yeah.
Do you play any instruments?
I listen only. I don't create.
Okay, so the question I have is, what was the first of these adventures? How old were you, and which one was it?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I suppose the first was not heli skiing, but skiing as a kid growing up. I don't remember playing football as a kid
I'm
growing
trying to
up.
figure out with these adventures, like,
Yeah.
did you go with your parents
Yeah, my parents were adventurous.
to any of these?
Yeah, I mean, my mom
Okay.
always wanted to go to more kind of civilized areas and historical sites, and my dad liked more kind of outdoor adventure and scenery and nature and landscape. So that combination was great because every vacation we kind of try to fit both in. But yeah, I would say both my parents were athletic and exposed us to a lot of fun adventures.
Because this
growing
can make one feel really inadequate, meaning me. I'm like, okay, let me think here. I got to do some things. Like I've been to Indian Lake.
up. Great place.
I've
yeah.
been to Cedar Point.
Wonderful.
I mean, I've been places, but not like this, right? This is really making me want to up my bucket list game. So thank you for that very
course,
much.
Yeah.
So we skipped over this last time, but you played a year of college football? Interesting. Did you play in high school? What position were you?
Quarterback.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course you. I mean, why would I even ask that? Of course you were. Okay, so what happened there? Were you just too focused on your studies, or did you?
Yeah, it was a combination. So I played at Yale under old-time legendary coach Carmen Koza, who was there for years and had a winning record, and it was a great experience. Their thought at the time was to recruit high school quarterbacks, assuming those were the best athletes on any given high school football team, and they just bring in a slew of quarterbacks and kind of see what happens. So after the first year, they basically said you could play sooner if you wanted to move to defensive back, or you could see what happens and wait till junior senior year and have a chance of starting then. And I didn't want to wait. It was a huge time commitment. I thought that playing football at an Ivy League school, might be a few hours a day, kind of like it was in high school, and it turned out to be much more than that. And I was pre-med, and it was taking too much time, and I didn't want to wait that long. So met a lot of great guys. It was a neat experience, but I knew I wasn't destined to be Tom Brady, so I was going to have to give it up at some point.
I have a feeling that whatever you'd put your mind to, you probably would just like kick it through the,
That's
kick it through the
kind.
goal. It's true.
I think
Look at your
physically
resume.
there are certain metrics, though, that would predict that someone would be able to play in the NFL, and that probably wasn't me.
Well, so I did tell you this last time, but I'm curious. Your resume reminds me of Owen Wilson on Meet the Fockers. But no one's ever like put that together? Like the guy that's like whittling the...
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
No, but I'm saying
Yeah.
no one's ever said like, hey, Jeff, you kind of have the same, like there's nothing you haven't done. There's nothing you can't do. And it's kind of funny and would make the average person feel like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of cool shit you've done here. And you're not braggadocious. You're humble. I'm the one that's, just reacting authentically to it. But no one's ever put that together that you were like, I think his name was Kevin.
I think you're the first one.
Okay, well,
Yeah, well
you
done.
heard it, you heard
Yeah.
it here first.
It's
I'm
original
stamping it. First
Carrie
use.
Croft.
First use right here.
Yeah.
When everybody starts saying that to you, and they will, they're
Stamp
going to start
it.
calling you Kevin.
Yeah.
If I have the name right. I'm pretty sure it is. You'll be like, why did I ever go on that damn
Jeff's
show?
fine.
Hard things. We talked about the 100, hours. Now, you also mentioned something about a friend that had committed suicide. How has that shifted or changed your perception of mental health? And how did that affect you?
That's a great question. I mean, at the time it was huge because I didn't even really consider myself a full-fledged adult yet, right? So it steals some innocence when something like that happens. He was a great human being who I'd grown up with and always assumed would be in my life in some capacity, even down the line with kids and a family, and would be someone, who I'd continue to relate to. So yeah, it was a huge loss. And as it regards to mental health, I think no one ever really knows. It's just such a complex set of variables, I think. And for someone to go to that extreme length, really without much warning, was really unfortunate because there wasn't a way to determine that or figure that out or help before it happened. So
That's just the mind-boggling thing about these situations where you have this person and there were no red flags for you as his friend, like no struggle with anything.
you can go back and kind of wonder in certain situations and things, but there wasn't depressed, wasn't on drugs, wasn't acting out, wasn't changing his personality in any major way. It just was that transition to college and college athletics, and there may have been a female relationship involved, and it just everything kind of comes to a head, and that illness comes through, and there's no way to salvage it once you make that ultimate choice. So it's pretty sad.
You're super steady, like to a degree where it's like I want to like figure out like there have to be highs and lows for you. Like, do you ever get anxious? Do you ever get depressed? Do you ever get mad, like where you're angry and having like yelling at your kid, or like you just seem so naturally even keeled that like I'd love to know where do you kind of veer off that path?
Yeah.
Or do you?
Not much. I mean, I think, my kids test my patience. I think my wife would sometimes wish that I expressed a broader array of emotions. But yeah, I think I'm fairly steady down the middle for the most part.
Are you romantic?
You'd have to ask others, right?
Liz, he's keeping that one safe and tight in the trust tree. I like that in you. When did you cry last?
Yeah, you asked me this a week ago, and you asked if I cried very often, and I said no. And you asked when I last cried, and I said it would surprise you that I had cried, I think, the night before our podcast, because I was going through some old photo books in order to get photos for a friend's 50th birthday out in California, and I ran across my grandmother's obituary.
Yeah. So was your grandma was she super close to you?
Yeah, my grandfather died when I was 11. My grandmother didn't die till I was already married with one child, so I just had a longer chance to know her, and she was right down the road growing up, and so we do things together. Yeah,
God, that's the same thing.
She was great.
My nanny, like it's like your grandma can just have a real special place in your heart. But it reminds me when you said that, when you were looking through old photos, the Christmas Vacation where he gets locked in the attic. Next thing you know, they show him with that really sweet song and he's just bawling. But that's what happens sometimes. You're like, wait, how did all this time go by?
Yeah.
Like my husband was just saying that today. In fact, a couple hours ago, Dane's going to kindergarten. He's like, well, should I get him an outfit, for a special outfit? I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this. Like watching him walk through the door and then I got like, I'm like, let's not even, can we just save that for the day? Cause I'm going to be an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. I think in particular with people who have had impact in the past, you think about those memories, but then you also think about the lost memories by not having them around, even currently or in the span between when they died and now. So it's, that can be sad.
So before that, do you normally cry like what, once a year, once every quarter? Do you give yourself a good cry?
I don't think about that very much. I mean, if it happened, I mean, in the middle of a great movie or something, if I'm into it, I wouldn't necessarily remember when that would be or how often. But yeah, I mean, that comes up from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple other interesting things about you that people need to know.
Please, fire.
And this is one that I left our last interview and I thought I forgot to go pull through this one.
Yeah.
The dancing. So we brought up, you said that other things that people wouldn't know about you is dance. What kind of dancing here?
Very informal. Not not under the guise of professional instruction or training. No tango, right? No waltz. No, I mean, I can do a box step, but usually more of a hip hop bump and grind, more of a mid '90s kind of. That's where I cut my teeth.
So, wait,
middle school dances, that kind of stuff.
So when would one catch you doing this? In the
That
OR
might
before
be-
you're like
Yeah,
what?
and every now and then the OR, but I think that might be on the same frequency level as the cry. It comes out when you least suspect.
Like in
it.
your kitchen, could someone find you after like a glass of wine, just
particularly
kind
with
of
my
like?
daughter. She has the same moves as well as the same sense of humor, so we often will combine those two. Yeah.
So you do like hip hop,
Oh yeah,
Biggie or Tupac?
Biggie, no question.
Really?
Yeah.
You would take Biggie over Tupac. See, I would have a real hard time because I love them both so much.
Tupac's great. I just don't think it's the same level.
Okay, I appreciate that. Another thing is you foster kittens. Now, people need to know this soft side of you because one would not think Dr. Donaldson and then fostering kittens. I think this is a big one. You have little tiny kitties like snuggling up.
Yeah, so that was more initially kind of forced on me by my wife and my daughter, which is great. They push the envelope in ways that maybe I wouldn't. So I grew up allergic to cats, and my wife insisted that if we had kittens, they don't have full adult cat dander, and so that they wouldn't stimulate allergies. So kittens started rolling in, and we fostered them. And then after, it was kind of sad because after 6-8 weeks, we'd move them on to other families, and my wife and my daughter would cry every time.
Oh no, it's got to be horrible.
For sure.
It's got to be horrible.
And then we had gotten through 50 kittens, and having fostered these kind of cycles, probably a dozen or a couple dozen times, and we finally kept one. So we actually haven't been fostering since we kept our current cat, which is our first cat. She's great, and yeah, I think this came up the last time too. Is after going on safari in Africa and observing the lions and the leopards and realizing just how similar the house cat is just in their movements and their approach and their energy, that kind of sealed it for me. I would just see this little lion every time I'm around her, and she's great.
Yeah, and I think we talked about, I asked you what your favorite animal, but if you were going to be one, which one would you be?
Probably not. The lion's life's tough. And they're always on the run. They're always fighting. Food sources are hard to come by. They're always...
What about like a rhino? They just like lay in the water and hang out.
Rhino's not a bad choice. I'd probably be like an eagle, something soaring up above, kind of above the fray. Comes down, strategic strike when
I'd be
necessary.
Of course you would.
Out of the
I'd be a
blue.
3-toed sloth hanging from the tree, chilling, furry. Oh, all right. Let's circle back around to Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
Moxie laser, cosmetic tattooing. So what's going on there? Like there's some up and coming things that I'm interested in. So obviously the Moxie, I've got that on deck to try.
Great.
Because I will tell you, ladies and men, but ladies, if you're looking for a little like zhuzh and like not wanting to go all in on something, a laser truly is a great kind of dip your toe in the water. I did it and I loved it and I loved the results.
It's a great reset button, helping with aging spots and sun damage and fine lines and texture and tone. So yeah, I think most patients, and we can customize those lasers so exactly to your skin type and to your goals that you can't help but to have some type of a nice result from that. And usually minimal to no downtime, and people recognize it, right?
Yeah.
And they may not know why. They may say, gosh, Carrie, looks like you got a lot of sleep last night, or you came back from a great vacation, but you can't tell necessarily.
Yeah, or you look like
what you did.
look like you're 16.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what? I can't help. I'm like,
You get that all
oh,
the
I was like,
time,
I
though,
woke
don't
up
you?
like this.
Yeah.
What the hell? So what are people tattooing?
You can tattoo eyebrows for patients whose brows are thinning. You can tattoo lip pigment if you're tired of putting on lipstick every single day or want to put on less. Those have been the big ones that we've been offering so far. So,
are people really like? Because that's one that for me I'd be real nervous about the makeup situation. But are people just kind of going in and they're like,
Yeah.
let's just do it?
yeah.
And it's temporary tattoo?
I mean, yes and no. It's semi-permanent, right? So it lasts for usually at least a few years.
Okay.
Sometimes it needs to be touched up, but yeah, you can go light. You don't have to go all in with like black lips or purple lips. You can go kind of a shade past your skin tone if you want. But
Okay, all right. And so on the horizon for you,
mm-hmm.
you have a new place opening up in
We
Lewis
do.
Center,
Yeah.
which I personally have seen. It's beautiful,
Oh, good.
Evans
Thank
Farm.
you. Yeah.
And I don't know if people don't know it's out there or maybe everybody knows it, but they're building kind of like a Bridge Park-esque spot. And so
Yeah.
now you've got your location, which is going to be gorgeous.
Thank you.
And then you have all these other things like the charcuterie place, wine. Like there's all you can like bebop around there, get get something done with Donaldson, then go hang out and have some wine and cheese. I mean, I feel like it's a really great spot to sort of treat yourself.
It is a nice spot. Yeah, when we initially saw it, it was just seemed like this impossible project growing up out of a cornfield, but it's really starting to come together. And it reminds me of when we chose Bridge Park years ago when there was no bridge and there was no library and there was no
Park?
the Pearl, right? There was exactly, and it all came together. So we felt like we were kind of on the front end of that and really benefited from the momentum and the energy that got rolling in that place. And I think it's the same potential at Evans Farm. It's really early, but when you look at all the growth in Lewis Center and everything kind of filling in from all the way from Delaware down through Elm Creek and Westerville, that whole northern corridor, there's just a lot of energy, and we're excited to
You
open
are
up
going to
there.
improve the wellness and the atmosphere there.
I think
I have
so.
a feeling. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. We are too.
Any last words of wisdom? So whether it's something that you always were told by your parents or like some kind of thing that stuck with you from someone that you've always kind of had and like you tell your kids, or you have any like words of wisdom for anyone out there who's like needs some sort of Dr. Donaldson zhuzh?
I mean, I think the overall theme that I kind of grew up with and have tried to instill in my kids is balance, and working hard and playing hard and every day looking at what's most important to you and making sure you check that box. So, for me, it's good nutrition, good sleep, exercise, spending time with the people who matter to me, spending time on myself, just something that I enjoy personally, and then accomplishing some type of work. So if we can do those things, I think for a lot of people, the spiritual component will be important, or listening to music or whatever the case may be, trying to achieve that balance and making sure that you fit a little bit of that into every day, and you can go to sleep satisfied.
What did you eat so far today?
Gosh, I had a hard-boiled egg. I had a yogurt. I had a shake just before coming in here, and
Did you work out this morning?
yeah, every morning.
What'd you do?
I have a little yoga balance routine that I start with, and then I do some strength exercises.
Is this
some
with
core stuff.
any instruction at all, or it's just all from you in your head?
Just for me, yeah.
And how long does that take you?
Usually takes me between 20 and 40 minutes, depending on how motivated I am.
What time do you start doing that?
Well, if I operate at 7:30, which is typical, then I'll usually get up at 6 and be finished with that by 6:30, 6:45, and then operating room's pretty close.
Are you like clockwork, though? It's like you're getting up every day and you're doing it.
Yes.
You never sleep in.
Well, if I'm not operating or have to go to the office, then occasionally. I mean, usually I'll get up at 6. That usually takes an alarm. If I don't have an alarm, it's usually 6:30 or 7, naturally.
So what's your vice?
I mean, I like good wine. I like a cigar just really occasionally, a couple times a year. I like to have fun with my friends, and sometimes that borders on not the most
Does the wine ever?
wholesome.
So will you do tequila? Will you do like?
Yeah,
So you'll kind of just
Yeah,
whatever
I
the
like bourbon. Yeah.
whatever the moment calls for.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think I drink less than I used to. It just appeals less the older you get for some reason. So,
yeah, no, I agree.
yeah.
I just like you more and more. I like your style.
That's sweet.
I like everything you got going on.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate you coming back.
Of course.
So hopefully you'll give me a 10 on this interview, or at least a 9.8.
10s are hard for me. You know, we have a level 10 meeting in our office every Monday morning where our leadership team gets together, and it's very rare. I just, 10s are tough.
Okay, well, I'm just going to...
But 9.8, 9.7, 9.8, 9.9, pretty damn good.
You know what, Dr.
Pretty
Donaldson, I'll take what I can get from you. I know you're so busy, and that was a major league fuck up, so I appreciate your kindness.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course.
I enjoyed it. Again.
Again. And with that, if you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, make an appointment with Donaldson, go check out your hormones and all the other stuff, and keep moving, baby.